All right, good evening to all. My name is Elijah Morsha, representing Team Indigo for the Information Systems Business Process course, with a proposal for Emerson's process redesign. So I just want to preface this by saying that the onset of the digital age has introduced new ways for organizations to adapt to a constantly evolving business climate. Information and communications technology has become an integral aspect for companies all over the world, hoping to utilize these innovations to maximize output and quality, all while reducing costs. Emerson Automation Solutions is one such organization, constantly upgrading and adapting their control systems to better acclimate to their clients' demands in the automation industry. So I'll pass this on to Elaine, who will start with the case background.
So I'm Elaine Aquino. I'm going to report the case background and some parts of it. Next slide. So Emerson Automation Solution is among companies that greatly utilize the power of ICT in order to meet and further exceed the demands and needs of their customers. Next slide. Organizational structure. Emerson follows a functional structure. Their employees are grouped and teamed together based on their similar skills and objectives. Within that structure, they follow a role hierarchy that depend on the strength and knowledge of each member. Their mission and vision is to hope to evolve quickly to stay ahead of the shifts in the global and technical landscape. Products and services. The team provides customer and support services for their branch main products, an automation system known as Delta V Distributed Control System or DCS.
Hello, everyone. My name is Miguel Singson, and I'll be discussing the process discovery. Next slide, please. So the GCS escalation procedure is a call support system for customers who raise an issue about their product. It serves as a guideline for all members within the product support team in the handling of issues, to whom it will be assigned and for how long it will be processed. Next slide, please. The main roles in the processes are the customer, the GCS generalist, the specialist, the senior specialist, and the product engineer. Next slide, please. The objectives of the product support team are straightforward. Solve the customer's issue within a given processing time. However, that means that become much more complex. Next slide. With the department's primary goal being the maintenance of Delta V, issues can range from the hot fixes to plant down operations. As per the department's organizational function, an issue will progress to the next level if certain criteria aren't met. Usually, this criteria is the time that has been spanned in which an issue remains unsolved. Next slide, please. Afterwards, we drafted the procedure outline for the escalation procedure. Next slide. So as you can see from this diagram, so the call flow escalation process starts from level A all the way up to level D. At this point of the call flow, an issue is received by the department via warm transfer or a phone call and forwarded to the product engineer on shift. From this point on, the product engineer and the supporting team's members will process the issue. Any issue that is resolved by a team at any level begins the process anew with the reception of a new support ticket. Otherwise, if they are unable to handle it, it goes to level B. Here, an issue is passed on to a specialist within the department to better understand the symptoms of the customer's issue. However, if it is unresolved after 2 days, it will be escalated to level C. Issues classified as level C will continue to be processed by specialists up to the senior level. If a total of 6 weeks has passed and the issue remains unresolved by the specialist, it is escalated to level D. Issues unresolved at this point are given special attention by generalists, specialists alike in an attempt to address the issues within 3 weeks. Otherwise, the product is deemed defective.
All right, I'll be hopping back on for the process analysis. So for the next slide, after analyzing the old process, we actually found multiple problems. So we constructed an Ishikawa diagram as a way to categorize and compile the flaws and points of improvement that were found in the current processes of the company. Next slide. Beginning with the method, one of the most glaring flaws identified within the current process is that the call flow escalation only proceeds with time passage. Up to 9 weeks have to be committed to a single issue, and by then it has already caused major problems. Now, this flaw becomes all the more glaring with a lack of initial diagnosis. Customers are left in the dark about the gravity of an issue and are only able to gauge the situation by how much time has passed since the issue was received. Next slide. Regarding level D, there is no contingency to be found once the product is deemed defective, adding to the customer's frustration to an already stressful ordeal. Next slide. Regarding manpower, the process does not check whether or not an engineer who received the call has dealt with a similar issue before. This creates an environment where the product engineers are first responders dealing with a potentially unfamiliar event through trial and error. Next slide. Additionally, only one representative handles issues at a time. In theory, this could be effective when passing support tickets that are familiar and can be quickly addressed, but not to an unknown variable whose processing time can take up to 9 weeks. Next slide. Lastly, there is also the issue of a counterproductive management of talent found in these processes. Lower level representatives at A and B level are scrambling to solve issue after issue, while other representatives are inactive. Conversely, a constant stream of unresolved issues passed on to specialists leads to them being overworked and the product engineering teams essentially becoming unproductive. Next slide. Within the working environment, the previous design of the process assumes that escalation procedures are done remotely. Next slide. Lastly, there is a machine issue regarding the fact that customers are only allowed to call one representative at a time. It creates a frustrating scenario for the customer as the issue escalates, seeing as they have to be transferred from one line to another until the right personnel is assigned. Additionally, there are no next slide, please. Additionally, there are no assumed roles, not even the customer, which is a very important part of the process. The escalation procedure should not just be about escalation, but also about the bigger picture. From the moment the customer experiences a malfunction all the way up to the execution of the resolving strategies. From here on, we'll be talking about process redesign, starting with Jake.
Taking the problems from the old design, we decided to update the escalation procedure using many process enhancement techniques. Let's have a bird's eye view of the newly drafted process. Furthermore, a brief on the main redesign proposals. We added a total of 4 redesign principles that actually addresses the problems from the last one. Issue classification. Judge and assign the severity of the issue rather than bottom-up escalation. From the very beginning, we want to have the first response unit analyze the issue right off the bat. They themselves will classify the severity of the issue, like if it takes more time or manpower to get it done, rather than letting time tell. After all, not the customer, not time, but the engineers themselves are the best people to highlight what the actual problem is. Escalation contingencies. Insert backups or protocols to unresolved or unanswered steps in the process. What the last process failed to present was protocols and contingencies. What exactly are they? When something fails, always opt for a plan B, or else you'd have to restart the entire process, or worse, sustain costly and permanent damage. Talent management restructuring. Talent, meaning the representatives that are capable of handling the issues, were managed poorly in the last process, allowing many of them to be benched and in some cases not being able to help out on an issue that they've actually already solved. Yes, in fact, benching is more costly than utilizing, since these engineers, specialists, and generalists are paid employees who possess valuable skills. Using more of them on one issue to get it done faster is definitely more efficient than a one person at a time sort of manner. Additional processes. Beginning and end processes must be included as it's important and answers problems from the old process. The problems sustained from the last process also come from outlying processes that weren't even mentioned. How do you expect the issue to be solved within a certain number of weeks when the process is bare and the customer is unaware as well? How much time would actually be saved if the receiver of the ticket would know what the problem is beforehand and rather than when the customer tells them himself? Much of these are reasons why the previous processes took so long. We need to outline these processes in order to keep them in check. That way, a lot of time, manpower, and money would be saved. To detail each exchange in addition, let's explain each phase. The most obvious enhancement was inserting the customer's role as a process, which is always important. A support ticket would be done using an online resource through their website or perhaps even a CRM system. That way you could keep track and record of every order. Another enhancement to this process is improvement. This improves the call system from the last process. The next enhancement would be specializing and resequencing. Once the engineer receives the ticket, he or she assesses the familiarity of the issue, which could save time for like half of the received orders. Also, we resequence determining the level of issue before assigning the representative. You could also say that we inserted the familiarizing step here. The enhancement done here is natural order, reducing time spent by checking availability instead of just benching talent. This phase checks the availability of talent, and the four true outcomes are the following. A specialist is available, a product engineer is available, neither are available and they just continue searching for one, or a different representative can take the issue, such as a generalist or a person who hasn't received the call. Here, we delay the call phase after the representatives are chosen. The call phase is actually more effective after the representative or representatives are chosen. They, along with the customer, are added in a multi-person call system. A contingency is also added if any persons are unavailable or if the call fails. Here we can see our first contingency step. Here we inserted the issue handling process that was neglected in the previous model. The issue handling process supports and makes sure that while the product is being fixed, the customer is always informed on the progress. Issues are diagnosed by actual experts. If the product is tangible, it can be taken to their local branch. As talent, actions are always initialized to get everyone on the same page. And executing those actions may take the most time, but this process makes sure that no time is actually wasted and most physical and mental energy and effort are expended on this step, which does ensure better performance at a more efficient amount of time. A contingency step is also presented when the issue isn't resolved. Remember when we said that the last process banked on a trial and error method to get the issue resolved? In all honesty, we can't avoid that step, especially for unforeseen issues. Yet here, it is laid out appropriately and properly, all within the same process. In a sense, this phase is also individualized to the designated issue. Anyway, this process greatly improves the last process, which left our head scratching. And yep, let's finish this.
So from everything that has been discussed and shared by our group, we can definitely say that Emerson Automation Solutions as a company tries their very best to provide the exact needs that their target audience are demanding for. Of course, as a group of college students who are currently studying in an institution heavy on research, we try their very best to come up with actual and possible solutions that could hopefully further enhance the processes of this company. The company has many factors to execute on as well as further develop on, so it is possible for them to miss out on a couple of improvements. We hope that our suggestions and recommendations are taken into further consideration, as we believe that it will greatly improve the business process management of Emerson Global. Thank you.